Trevor Story provides a timeline. Finally, we have some sort of resemblance of a timeline for Trevor Story and his offseason recovery from elbow surgery. Kiké Hernández responded to the reporter who questioned whether he has the resume to be a leader for the Red Sox. Chris Sale delivered a message to the doubters out there, and Bobby Delbeck and Alex Cora met face-to-face.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, NESN's Lauren Willand, and I am having so much fun these last few days covering baseball, both writing and, of course, podcasting here on Locked On Red Sox. And every day is just something new seems to come out of training camp, and that will probably help happen for the remainder of spring training, whether that's some injury updates like Mondesi likely won't be ready for opening day. Chris Sale looks like he's ready to go for opening day. If opening day was tomorrow, he sounds like he is ready to go. And then there's Trevor Story, who we already know was going to miss the beginning of the season. We're not really sure how long he's going to miss, but he did meet with reporters on Wednesday down in Fort Myers, and he said that there's a best case scenario and a worst case scenario for his recovery. Best case scenario is that he plays again this year, which is the hope. And the worst case scenario is that he misses the entire season, which would not be ideal, but he does feel good about the best case and that he will return at some point this season. Now, he did have that internal bracing procedure on his elbow, on that UCL. And basically that surgery is a modified Tommy John. It's like an alternative to Tommy John surgery. Google says it's a 4 to 6 month recovery. The Red Sox never gave a timeline, and they still haven't really given one. So 4 months would put us at about May, and then 6 months would be about July. Then when you get into July, you're talking the All-Star break. Would there even be a need to rush him back? Where will the Red Sox be in July at that point of the season? Will they be so far out of it? Will they be a little bit competitive? Will they surprise people? Will Trevor Story's presence in the lineup and return to the lineup make a world of difference? A lot of questions surrounding that, but the internal bracing procedure, it's a fairly new procedure, which has to do with why there really hasn't been a specific timeline, because the procedure that Story had isn't done a whole lot. So the recovery periods range widely based on the individual and how they respond to treatment, how they recover, if they follow their regimen, if they listen to the doctors. So even Trevor Story, he mentioned that he wishes he had a bit more clarity on the recovery and when he's able to come back. And he mentioned also that he did talk to a few players who have had the surgery, Rich Hill being one of them, and to just kind of get some more clarity and peace of mind about returning and recovery. So he did say that he's never been through something like this, so there's a lot of questions being asked. He said we've heard anywhere from 4 months to 8 to 10 months. So that is a huge gap right there, and that's much more than what Google has said when you just Google the procedure. He said it just kind of depends on each player. Each player is different. Each guy responds a little differently in their body. We're really just going to take it how it comes. And like I said, I'm planning on coming back, and that's the goal for me. And I think that's best case scenario. So he is out of the sling. He had that massive elbow brace at winter weekend. And then Alex Cora, it wasn't Alex Cora, but someone posted a picture of them hosting a Super Bowl party, and Alex Cora was there, Vasquez, Kiké Hernández, and Trevor Story. And the big thing from that was that Trevor Story was no longer in the brace. So that's a good sign. In terms of recovery right now, he's just doing range of motion stuff, kind of light strengthening and mobility. He does not know when he's going to start throwing, and that's the soft toss. He has no idea when he's going to start that. So that's another reason why we don't really have a legitimate timeline. Obviously, you like the 4 to 6 month over the 8 to 10 months, because then you do 8 to 10 months, you're eliminating for most of the year, because that will put you in the September, October range. We just don't know what the future holds for the Red Sox in terms of September and October baseball. But overall, it does seem like he's recovering well, and it seems like he's on the right track. It just doesn't seem like there's a specific timeline, because they just don't know how he's going to respond because of how new this procedure is, how many or the lack of players who have had this. So while that's not ideal, I do think it's optimistic to say that he's recovering well and that he seems to be in good spirits and that he is doing range of motion to get that range of motion back in his elbow to try to come back this year. We haven't heard anyone say, and I don't think we would, but he wants to play this year, and it does seem realistic. And until we're told it's not, I think we should listen to Trevor Story. So hopefully the recovery continues to go well and there's no setbacks. That's the only kind of major thing I'm thinking of in terms of recovery. If there is a setback, whether that's in this range of motion and the strengthening and mobility, whether that's during soft toss, I hope there's no sort of setback. And if there is, they can just get in front of it right away and just try to get him on the continued right track so he can play for the Red Sox this season. So I mentioned in Tuesday's episode, that there was a bit of an awkward exchange between Chaim Bloom and a reporter, because this reporter questioned whether Kiké Hernández had the resume to be a leader in the Red Sox clubhouse. And when Chaim Bloom asked him what he meant by that, he couldn't really find the words. He really fumbled over himself there, and it was just, I feel like he thought he had something, and he didn't. So the reporter was Duke Castiglione. He is the son of Joe Castiglione. Anyone in New England really knows who Joe Castiglione is. And the question was, does he, referring to Kiké, have the resume to do that? He's not Xander Bogaerts. Does he have the resume to be that guy? And then Chaim Bloom said, what do you mean by that? And Duke Castiglione said, Xander's an all-star. Kiké's talking about the culture of the team, just, two different things. Kiké's a guy who's a multiple position player. Again, I don't really know where he was going with this, because all Chaim Bloom asked him was to clarify the question, and he couldn't even really do that. And when you're looking at the resumes of Xander Bogaerts and Kiké Hernández, yes, they're vastly different, but they are leaders in their own right. And you don't need to be an all-star. We talked about this Tuesday. You don't need to be an all-star. You don't need to be a World Series champion. And it's just, who cares if Kiké plays multiple positions? I forgot that must exclude him from being a leader. But on Wednesday morning, of course, everyone's on the internet these days, and a lot of the athletes are on Twitter, and they respond to this sort of criticism. But Kiké Hernández took it in stride, and he tweeted, "Anybody know how to use LinkedIn? I need help with my resume," with the smiley face that goes upside down. So just, seeing the humor in this and just responding in a way that's funny, and that's, almost like a no ill will kind of thing. And even if the question was ridiculous, the way that Kiké responded to it, it was snarky, it was funny, and we should all kind of respond that way when we receive criticism or when we hear something like that, because it's just, and when you respond with humor, sometimes things are just easier that way, because it's all in good fun. And Kiké is showing us that we shouldn't take life so seriously. And speaking of that, Chris Sale has a message to those who maybe aren't taking the Red Sox so seriously in 2023, which we know is a lot of people, and understandably so. We'll dive into Chris Sale's message just as soon as I tell you about FanDuel, because believe it or not, we are at the midway point of the NBA season. It's here, it's now, and it is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download this FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, and it's super easy to use. Take it from me, a very new bettor to this. Betting just became legalized in Massachusetts. I made my first 2 bets last weekend, and I did not hit on one of them. And I will not know until the Red Sox season is over if I hit on the second one. But on the FanDuel app, you can bet on everything: the money line, the point scores, there's props, there's everything on there to make it nice and easy. If you are an inexperienced bettor, or even if you are experienced, it's still nice and easy. It's all laid out right in front of you. I am a big money line person, but the money line is something that I know I will probably bet when I use FanDuel. It's one of the easier ones for me, and I know that FanDuel will always have it. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So do not miss your chance at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And once we wrap up here on Locked On Red Sox, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects to make it your second listen of the day. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So Chris Sale, for the first time in 2023, well, since winter weekend, not the first time in 2023, but the first time since winter weekend, met with reporters, and he looks good. He looks like he's ready to go. He also sounds like someone who's ready to go. And we know what Chris Sale brings when he does these press conferences. He brings confidence, he brings accountability, and he also brings confidence that he tries to instill confidence in the fan base. And he knows that there's a lot of pessimism around this team. He knows that there's been a lot of roster turnover, and he knows that fans may be a little bit skeptical about this team. But on Wednesday, he said, "We're here to make some noise, say what you want, but I like where we're at." And listen, I love the confidence in Chris Sale. And if he likes where they're at, that's great. It doesn't really move the needle for me, just because we still need to see what these guys can do, the newcomers, how this team meshes, and we need to see really how this season goes. Now, we're not going to wait all season to make a decision on this team. I think fans they'll be a little impatient, though I do think some will be rather patient to kind of give this team that chance to mesh outside of spring training. But Chris Sale, like James Paxton, like others have said, they're all saying the right things. It's just a matter of backing them up. I hope the Red Sox do make some noise. I hope Chris Sale truly is confident about where they're at, and that results in a valuable baseball product on the field to give fans some watchable baseball. That remains to be seen, but Chris Sale also said that he recruited Corey Kluber and is super, super pumped for him to be on the Red Sox. And Chris Sale also noted that he will be ready for opening day. He said if he were told he was throwing to live batters tomorrow, he'd be good to go. So saying all the right things, which again, that's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear that, oh, we're going to suck, we're going to be a bad team, that it's not worth watching us. We want to hear that the Red Sox understand they're in this weird position and they want to get their fans excited. And also, he did show a bit of vulnerability during his media. He said that, "I know how quickly things can go wrong. I had the floor pulled out from under me," referring to really the last few years and all the injuries that he's suffered. He said, "I was given the extension to do a job and I haven't done that. I want to go compete again." Now, Chris Sale is a dog. We know that. We know his work ethic. We know he's going to put all the effort into making sure he's healthy, getting himself on the field, and not just getting himself back on the pitching mound, but staying on the pitcher's mound and being healthy and having a full season. And he always brings the accountability. Even during his starts when he wasn't good, he would always hold himself accountable, and that does go far. But now it's time for him to stay on the mound, turn in a good season for Red Sox fans, and prove that this extension was not a waste of money. He has a big season in front of him. A lot of Red Sox players have a big season in front of them. He can be the ace of the staff. He can be their go-to guy. He can be a leader, and I think he will be, and I think he already is. But again, saying all the right things. Now let's translate that into results, and let's see it on the field, because actions speak so much louder than words. But someone we're not worried about on the Red Sox roster is Rafael Devers, and he also met with the media on Wednesday, and we found out he's a big hockey guy. I absolutely love that he is so into hockey. He went to the NHL All-Star game a few weekends ago down in Florida, and he even got to meet Alex Ovechkin. He got a signed stick and a signed jersey from the guy who will break Wayne Gretzky's goal record, not this year, but in the very near future. And Devers said he's like the pull holes for hockey, right? Big guy. Wow. And Alex Ovechkin is a big guy. But I looked it up because I was like, I don't think he's that much bigger than Devers. He's only 3 inches taller than Devers. And when you're on skates, you obviously add a few inches there. And Devers has 4 or 5 pounds on him. So maybe he was talking about pull holes, but I just thought that was a very pure reaction to Alex Ovechkin. And of course, he was asked about last year and Kiké's comments about the Red Sox kind of being comfortable with last place. And he said, "To be honest with you, last year was disappointing. I feel embarrassed by what we did last year, and that's why I don't think that's going to happen again. We're working toward the goal to be better and to fight for championships. That's what we do here. And to be honest with you, we felt really embarrassed last year. But we know we have the guy in there that can turn the page around and can make it to the playoffs and win championships. Like I said before, it was something that happened last year. Nobody was happy, and now we turn the page and focus on 2023. So it sounds just like everyone's mentality here is 2022 is in the rearview mirror. We're focused on 2023. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of question marks surrounding the players, surrounding the team. Let's just go out there and hopefully silence the doubters. There's going to be a lot of things that need to go right for the Red Sox, and it can, but it just, everything needs to go right. A lot needs to go right for this team, but everyone seems very motivated. And how can you not be motivated after a season like 2022. And then in the offseason, you lose so many key pieces to your team. You lose Xander Bogaerts, you lose JD Martinez, Nate Eovaldi. You lose several other members of this team that could have helped you win a championship had they still been here. But now you got a fresh slate. Let's turn the page, like Rafael Devers said, and focus on 2023 and see what we can do. Some other quick spring training notes. Kenley Jansen is a little bit behind because he and his wife and his family, they were sick over the winter and he needed to stop his workouts. He will not go to the World Baseball Classic because he wants to stay in Fort Myers with the Red Sox to work on the pitch clock and kind of getting to know the team and getting to know the rules. The World Baseball Classic is not adopting MLB's new rules. So the pitch clock, which will be new this year for Major League Baseball, is not going to happen in the WBC. So Kenley Jansen, if you don't know, he works very slow. He's a slower pitcher, and he will be somebody who is impacted greatly, I believe, by this pitch clock. So he wants time to acclimate to it, and I think that kind of speaks to the self-awareness, because he knows he works slow. He knows he's a slower pitcher on the mound, and he knows that he's up against the clock now. And the more time he has to get used to it, the better he'll be on the mound. Alex Cora also noted that he will not have a strict plan for platooning Tristan Casas with Justin Turner when there's a left-handed pitcher on the mound. We know that Casas struggled against lefties. That was kind of his thing, that he can hit bombs, but he does struggle against left-handed pitchers. So they have a lot of trust in him. I'll be curious to see if the leash is short for Casas, or if they're going to just try to ride this out and kind of get over that hump of struggling so bad against lefties. And Cora also said he met with Bobby Delbeck, who's at training camp. I keep calling it training camp. It's spring training. I don't know why I'm in football mode, because football is over, but Bobby Delbeck is in Fort Myers. He came early, and with a lot of the players going to the World Baseball Classic, like Kiké Hernández and Rafael Devers, Delbeck over spring training will play a lot of third base, and he'll also see time at first and shortstop. Now, Red Sox fans probably don't want to hear that he'll be at shortstop. He struggled a lot at first base. So it will be really interesting to see how he kind of handles all of this pressure, because this is a huge spring training for him. He might end up traded. He might end up in Worcester. He might end up making the team somehow, some way. A big, big spring training for Bobby Delbeck. Only time will tell what happens with him. We're going to end this show with our third segment. Of course, we're going to do the mental health minute. And today's mental health minute, I was going through my planner from 2022 to make sure that I didn't leave any papers in this handy dandy thing. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it's massive. There's papers hanging out of it, and I needed to go through because I want to throw it away because I'm trying to declutter everything, and I just want to make sure there was nothing important in there. And I came across one of the pages that had some papers in it, and there's a quote at the top of every page, kind of, to motivate you and to let you know that you're doing all right. And this one said, "At the end of the day, we can endure much more than we think we can." And I think that's really relevant right now, especially a lot of us have so much on our plates. A lot of us are struggling for several different reasons. We're stressed, we're tired, we're burnt out, and we're just looking for ways to de-stress. But one thing that's really important when you are struggling, to understand is that you have survived every single one of your worst days, which means you certainly can endure much more. And there's times you think, how much more can I take? Why do bad things keep happening to me? But no matter what is thrown at you, you can endure it because you've endured everything else that's happened to you up until that point. Does it make it easy? No. Does it make it fun? No, but it makes you stronger. And it certainly means you can handle a lot more. Give yourself some more credit. Give yourself some more grace. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, the Odyssey app. Wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. You can also find us on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. Jake at Jake Iggy. He will make his return tomorrow. We'll be back together for a Friday episode of Locked On Red Sox. And you can find me at Lauren, 3 Laws Lauren with 4 R's. Head on over to NESN.com as well. There is so much Red Sox content coming out. There's prospect series. There's spring training recaps. So we have everything over there for you. And some of it is written by yours truly. Be sure to check out all the other shows across the Locked On Network. Locked On Fantasy. We have Locked On Fantasy MLB. Be sure to check them out. They're doing a great job. Locked On Yankees. Bad news about Frankie Montas. He may miss the season after undergoing shoulder surgery or needing shoulder surgery very shortly. Locked On Astros, Locked On Reds, Locked On MLB. everyone is super jazzed that baseball is back, and we're back 5 days a week right here, wherever you get your podcast. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects to make it your second listen of the day, because host Lindsey Crosby, when we tell you he's an encyclopedia for prospects, we mean it. We've had him on the show. We can certainly attest to that. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Jake and I will be back Friday. We'll recap some more spring training, follow some storylines, and catch you up on everything in between. But until then, have a wonderful day. And as always, let's go Red Sox.